Welcome to the Heart of Giving. As you know, this program is devoted to the nonprofits in the city of Long Beach. The nonprofits meet our needs, they stick us together, we work together, and today is really no exception. In fact, it's probably the exceptional contribution that we have in our community, and that is Justin Rudd. Now, if you haven't heard of Justin Rudd, you have not been active in anything, because this gentleman has been in every part of our city. I think people know him throughout the community, and it's just exciting to know that he's with us in the city of Long Beach. And Justin, I thank you for being here. Yeah,
happy to be here.
It's just wonderful. I'm just so glad that you're here.
You bet.
But you know, before we talk about all of that, the list of things you're doing, we could spend just reading it for the next 15 minutes. And I don't want to do that. I do want to do it at some time.
Okay.
But I want to talk about you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. Justin Rudd was not born in Long Beach.
No, I was born in Southeast Alabama, a small town of about 13,000 people called Ozark.
And when did you get to Long Beach?
I left Alabama at the age of 26, and I moved here to California 20 years ago, and I've been in Long Beach 18 of those years.
And how were we so lucky? How did you come to Long Beach?
You know, as a little boy, I dreamt of California. I used to watch on TV CHIPS, California Highway Patrol, and what they did, and I saw surfers and sunshine. I said, wow, that's great. And so it was a dream to go to California, but I thought that was so distant it would never happen. And I just got to a point in my life after college where I just was looking for a change and took a great risk, moved across the country, knew one person in California when I moved here. And for 2 years I was in the entertainment business up in Hollywood, and then finally moved down to Belmont Shore and have stayed ever since.
Well, what do you do that makes you feel, well, that's the wrong question. What is it that got you started in what you're doing now, which is all over town?
Oh, yes. You know, as a little boy, I grew up going to church in Southeast Alabama. I was active in Scouts. I was active in the YMCA, active in school activities, service clubs, in the Honor Society and the Key Club. And then in college, was active in my fraternity, Lambda Chi Alpha. And then after college, remained active at church doing service projects. And I enjoyed that. I loved helping people. And my parents modeled that as well. And then when I moved to Long Beach, I just started my own things. The first thing was the beach cleanup, the 30-minute beach cleanup.
Okay, so you moved to Belmont Shore area.
Yeah, sure did.
And you saw that there was a need on the waterfront.
Yes. I was running and saw the amount of trash that was on the beach, and I wanted to do something to help out. And
what did you do?
You know, I asked some friends to join me on a Saturday. It happened to be the third Saturday of June 1999. And I said, can you, and 12 of my friends showed up. And I said, we're going to clean up the beach for half an hour. And they did. At the end of half an hour, I said, we're done. We picked up a lot of trash. And I said, you know what, can you come back next month on the third Saturday, same time, same place, and let's pick up some debris? And they did, and they brought their friends. And then just this last Saturday, we had our 200th consecutive monthly 30-minute beach cleanup.
And how many people did you have?
Gosh, around 200 people showed up for this one.
That's just marvelous.
It's good.
And that got you interested in bringing people together to do something good.
It did. I continue to thrive on that. I love giving people the opportunity to be a part of something. And I think that that's important, to show people in the city or wherever the community you live how they can be involved, and make it simple, make it just a half an hour. Effortless. Just show up. And we provide the bags, the gloves, door prizes, refreshments, free parking, and volunteer forms. So we make it simple. And they showed up, and that was just the start of it.
And I know a family that he brings his children because he wants them to know that public service is something that should be part of their lives. And these kids just look forward to going through the sand and picking up things. And
yeah, and some of the things that you find on the sand, it's very interesting. I mean, they'll find balls that come down the Los Angeles River. Somehow tennis balls and the bounce house balls, maybe at Burger King. They end up in the storm drains and go into the Los Angeles River, flow into the bay here in Long Beach, and then wash ashore.
Yeah.
So you can find some pretty interesting things.
Okay, now I know also that you have love for animals.
Oh, yeah.
And you had a dog. The dog's name was Rosie.
Rosie.
And that was your second project?
Yes. Well, I got Rosie early on when I moved to Belmont Shore, and she became a very special part of my life. And I wanted to be able to do things with her and expose her to other dogs so that they could get together and just have some fun. And for me as an animal lover to get together with some other people who loved animals. So I started I called them yappy hours at the park at Livingston Park, and we would meet on Sunday afternoons and with our dogs, and we would meet for just 30 minutes or so, and then we'd go for a walk on 2nd Street. And it ended up being about 30 or 40 dogs parading down 2nd Street on Sunday afternoons. And I said, let's create a parade on Easter, and we created the Hot Dog Easter Parade, and we put bunny ears and hats on the dogs and raised money for some local animal charities.
And now?
Yes, now we continue to do dog parades. And in fact, it was the Hot Dog Easter Parade that got me on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. So that was fun. But we created the Hot Dog Halloween Parade, and that Halloween Parade continues today. We get about 600 or 700 dogs in the parades. We also created the Bulldog Beauty Contest that happens on Valentine's Day this year. We'll have about 200 English Bulldogs. It's the world's largest gathering of English Bulldogs.
No.
Yes.
Is
in
that
Long Beach.
right?
Yes.
Oh.
And I think when you can get 3 or 4 Bulldogs in one place, that's a big deal because you don't see that often. But try 200 of them in one place. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. Oh, wow. And on Halloween, the costumes are phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
People must have worked months on some of these costumes for their animals.
They do. They probably start the day after last year and think about what they're going to do as a theme. And we call them floats. They can have a wagon or a cart or a push cart or some sort of a stroller, and they'll put their dog on or in it, or they'll walk their dog on a leash. And it's just so creative, very creative people.
And again, you're bringing people together in a different way for our community, and they feel part of the community.
You bet. I love bringing the people together. That's and we have such a fantastic city to be able to do that. You know, ever since I moved here to Long Beach, I just have felt embraced and allowed to. I feel like I've been allowed to do
My kind of person. I love it.
I feel like I'm allowed to do what I'm meant to be doing. I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time.
And then your third project.
You know, it would be the Kids Spelling Bee. At the time, I've always been a fan of competitions and contests, and I want people to be able to be recognized for doing good things or what they're good at. So I started the Kids Spelling Bee Championship, and what we do is we ask kids from all over the country to come to Long Beach. Their ages are grades 3, 4, and 5, and then we give them a long list of spelling words, just like the traditional bees that you see. It's called the National Kids Spelling Bee, and we have a $1,000 prize.
And in doing these things, not only do we bring people together, but sometimes it's a fundraiser for the nonprofits.
You bet. For example, when we started the Hot Dog Easter Parade and the Hot Dog Halloween Parade, I did not have a nonprofit when I started that. I was just raising money for other nonprofits. I was wanting to help them. So like the Friends of Long Beach Animals, the Long Beach Animal Care Services, the Canine Police Officers Association. Those are some of the organizations that we helped early on. We were charging, I think it was $10 per dog to be in the parades. And then we didn't have overhead. We didn't spend money. We were there to make money. So we were able to write generous checks to all those organizations.
Well, you were the one that made that happen. I mean, and you don't take any salary, so.
Yeah, I love what I'm doing, and I love being able to do it here in this city.
Okay, yeah. But now we're down to 3.
That's 3.
That's 3. That brings hundreds of people together and makes people happy, especially seeing dogs. And Rosie was always in costume.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I felt like each year I had to bring up the end of the parade. I had to have a nice costume too. Yeah, you bet.
That's wonderful.
And then from there we went on and created the Dog Beach, so it's Rosie's Dog Beach in Belmont Shore.
Yeah, that was my next thing, but there are so many things, and we are going to have you back because we are not even getting started on that list that you provided of things that are in motion right now. But tell us a little bit about the Rosie's Dog Beach. How did you do that?
At the time, I was living literally 1 block away from the beach, and I was noticing that people were not coming to the beach. It was not a very activated beach, and I wondered
In that part of the beach.
that part of the beach, and I was
Long
wondering
Beach.
why can't a dog be over there? And I found city code. I would go down to the main library downstairs and use, I think it was called microfiche or whatever that machine is called. It was back before computers, and I found a code that said dogs can be on the beach during a special event. So I said, I'm going to hold a special event. And I did. And on a Sunday afternoon, we had about 400 to 500 dogs show up in a 4-hour period there in Belmont Shore. And from there, that just began about a 2 or 3 year period of about 21 Sunday afternoon events where dogs could come and be off leash. And we proved to the city that it could happen, and it would be safe, it'd be very well attended, and it would be clean at the end of the day.
That's marvelous. And then each project you have has to have coordination and has to have people that help. Do you have people that are helping you now?
I have fantastic volunteers who show up.
But do you have a board of people, or do you have?
Yes,
that
by law,
meets-
you have to have a board of directors, and I
Yes.
do. My board.
These are volunteer people.
They happen to be friends of mine who I asked to be on my board of directors, and they're very supportive of what I do, and they come and they show up and they give up their time. Hundreds of volunteers help with all of our events year round. I love it.
Well, this is good. This has gone so fast, and there's so much more I want to talk to you about. That you've got to come back. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Maybe
I'd love to.
we'll do it again maybe next month.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
that I didn't even start on the list, because how many projects do you have right now?
There's probably somewhere between 50 and 60 events, contests, and projects each year in Long Beach.
50 and 60?
50 to 60, yes.
And your board kind of coordinates all of this?
Well, I coordinate it. They help out.
Yeah.
From my 1-bedroom apartment in Belmont Shore, making it happen, working on it.
Well, Justin, I'm just so glad that you found Long Beach, and Long Beach find you, because you are a strong member of doing the most important thing that you could do, and that is bringing people together, having them love the city because they love their neighbors and they love their dogs.
Yes.
And it brings them together in a happy way. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The next group we have is new to Long Beach. Not really new, but it's more recently a part of our arts group in the city of Long Beach. We have someone who is representing that group. She's the executive director of the Musica, Angelica. Laura Spino, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's nice to see you. And this group just had a program the other night, a performance in the Terrace Theater area, and it is just a magnificent organization. I'm just, I don't even know where to start, because, well, I'll let you start. I'll let you start. Tell me about Musica, Angelica.
Sure. Musica Angelica is a Baroque orchestra, and more uniquely considered a period instrument Baroque orchestra. And what that means is that we perform on authentic instruments from the 17th and 18th century. So if we're playing music by Vivaldi, Handel, or Bach, or any of their contemporaries, we're actually playing on the instruments of that time period. So it transports listeners back in time. You're actually hearing what the composer intended to hear when he wrote those notes on the page.
What, it's not a big group. It goes from probably 15 to 25 or something.
Usually 25 at the top, we have a string group that is the main component, but then depending on what the composer wrote, we also add oboes, French horns, bassoons, flutes, but these are all instruments from that time period. So whereas you might think of an oboe nowadays with lots of silver keys on it, ours just have holes. The trumpets and the French horns, they don't have any valves. So instead of pushing the valves, they're doing everything from their lips and the pressure from the air. And so it's really I've always found it to be fun to hear the music in its original state, and it has such a lively sound.
And the string instruments have different bows?
They do, actually. I guess the easiest way to describe it is a modern bow is, I think it's called concave. The wood goes like this and stretches the bow so that way they can get a lot of sound, a lot of power. The bows in the Baroque era were convex, meaning that the wood curves more this way, which gives the bow a lighter bounce. They were able to play
They're
dance
longer
music.
too, aren't
They're
they?
a little bit shorter, actually, a little shorter.
No,
Yes.
I thought they were longer.
No, they're a little shorter. But it allows the bouncing on the strings, and so you can get a nice dance feel, very light. It's just a completely different way of performing, and you'll find that the music just comes alive because they're actually playing it on the instruments that it was written for.
Could a current instrumentalist that plays regular type music of the day just play one of those other instruments?
I understand that it takes quite a bit of time. Just like specializing in other instruments, these also take a lot of time and effort, and many of our musicians have actually gone to school specifically to study early instruments, and they spend their time really perfecting their craft on these specialized pieces of equipment.
And this group performs 4 times in their season.
5 times.
5 times in their season. Do these musicians just have this, or do they perform elsewhere?
Oh, many of them perform elsewhere also.
So that it's not a permanent group of people that come to Long Beach?
Our orchestra is, for the most part, permanent, but they play in other period orchestras as well. San Francisco has a period instrument orchestra, as does Portland and Seattle, and so many of our musicians will actually travel up and down the coast, and even sometimes to the East Coast, to participate with other like groups that are performing on these authentic instruments.
Well, the director of this spends a lot of time in Vienna.
He does. Our music director, Martin Hasselbach, he actually lives in Vienna, and he's been our music director now for 12 years. And he comes out here to the Long Beach, Santa Monica area where we perform at least 3 times a year, sometimes 4. And so we're very lucky to have someone that has such an incredible, vast knowledge of the repertoire and such a consummate musician that he is.
Now, the Musica Angelica in Long Beach is the Musica Angelica that performs in the other areas of Southern California.
Yes.
This particular group does.
It does. We perform all over Southern California, but we have decided to make Long Beach our home.
I love that.
Yes.
And why?
We just found that there was a wonderful community here that was very embracing of the arts. Already we've built a wonderful audience space, a fantastic board of directors that has really helped to support the orchestra in incredible ways. We just feel incredibly welcomed into Long Beach.
Well, the last Saturday night performance, I mean, the last 3 I've gone to have had everyone standing at the end giving applause because the music is so unique and it is so professional. You know, the last performance had, was it a forte piano?
Yes.
And it's like a harpsichord that's grown up a little bit.
It's sort of the in-between of the harpsichord and the piano that we know today. It was really the beginnings of the idea of the hammer hitting the string rather than in a harpsichord situation, it plucks the string. So it was the forte piano, the one that we played on was an actual Mozart era piano. The piano then changed through time. Beethoven had a slightly larger one, and then eventually once you're getting into the late 1800s, then you're really performing on pianos like we know today. So this was an evolution.
Well, it was phenomenal. The pianist didn't have any music, and I mean, it went on and on and on, and he was just magnificent.
He's really quite a star, actually, from Europe. He's also Viennese, and not only specializes in the forte piano, but also in modern piano, but just an all-around incredible musician, as you heard. And it was fun for us to also play Mozart era music. A lot of times we do focus on the Baroque, but we've also been venturing out into early classical, and actually our string players do change their instruments, and so do the winds, because even 40 or 50 years later, you see again the evolution of even those instruments. And we really like inviting people onto the stage at the end of the concert. I have a lot of children and families and audience, and
I
they
was
come
going to bring
down.
that up. The thing that I loved seeing was that you have gone to the schools and said this is a form of music that we were really not addressing here in the city, but we are here now, and we'd like to have participation from the musical students that are in the Cal State Long Beach and City College and Unified School District. And then you give them a chance to go down to the stage at the end of the performance and visit with the musicians.
Yes, it's really a great program that we've started with the Long Beach Unified School District and Jim Petrie, who is their music curriculum leader. Each concert, we invite 100 students and their families to come to the concerts, and this moves around the city, so eventually we'll hit all the schools. And the important piece definitely is that at the end of the concert they can meet the musicians, see the instruments close up, they see where their instruments came from, learn a little bit more about the history of music.
And last Saturday night they brought the performance piano back on stage.
Yes, we did.
Just so the students could see it, because he had played earlier in the program.
Yes, we definitely wanted people to be able to get up close and look inside the instrument, for sure.
Well, I talked to 2 students that night, and there was real excitement. One young man from Cal State Long Beach who was just so excited about hearing this music. Why is that? It's a different way of playing Mozart, and it's the same music, but the performance is entirely different.
It is. I think it gets back to 2 things. One is the authentic instruments. So the music really comes alive when you're playing it on the instruments that it was intended for. But also our musicians study and the style. It's a slightly different style of playing, note lengths and differences. And it's just also, they have such energy when they play. It's just so exciting, and our musicians love to play together. And I think if you look closely while they're playing, you see that interaction.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes having a smaller chamber orchestra really allows for that as well. When you get to a symphony orchestra, which you have to understand, I love symphony orchestras too, but when you have 80, 100 people on stage, they're not going to be able to have that close-knit interaction like you do with a chamber orchestra. And so I think that our musicians are just, well, maybe I'm biased, but I think they're fabulous. We really have a world-class set of musicians.
Oh, I know. Well, and this last performance, they were seated. But the other performances I've seen, they're all standing the whole time.
In the Baroque era, they almost always stood. When you start to get into a slightly larger orchestra, and certainly by the time you get into Beethoven, they're sitting. But definitely in the Baroque era, a lot of times they were in someone's castle or parlor, or what we consider now, I guess, our living rooms, and they always stood. And I hear from our musicians, actually, that they feel that they can actually express themselves better by standing. There's more movement.
Oh,
they
yes,
can sway
absolutely.
with the music. They see each other communicating better that way. So it again just adds to the liveliness.
And when they're standing, you can see them looking at the other musicians. You know, like they're, as you say, part of a group, and playing off of one another.
Yeah, they're like talking to each other, but through their music.
Yeah. Well, since this, how long have you been in Long Beach? Well, I have 2 questions. The musicians play for us, and then the 2 other areas in our programs each year. And but in between, they play all over individually.
Yes.
They're not together as a group all the time.
Not all the time, but many of your musicians, they've known each other for over 20 years. Musica Angelica has been in existence
Because there aren't
for
that many
23
Baroque
years.
players.
Exactly. There's really only about 200 trained Baroque players in the United States. And so I see it as like a big pool of musicians that we're lucky enough to pull from to make our concerts. But most of our musicians, they know each other well. They perform together a lot, whether with us or with other groups. And so they have a nice affinity, for sure.
Well, that's marvelous. I'm so glad that you chose Long Beach
I am too.
to be part of, because I think that the schools will be receptive to this, because it's probably an era that is not played as, maybe not at all, in the current musical programs of the students at the schools.
Sure, and also with Cal State Long Beach, we will be doing master classes there for the students, so they can also understand more about the style and where their instruments came from.
And you are the person that, even though it says director, you're not out there with the musicians.
No, I'm the behind the scenes.
That's wonderful. Well, Laura, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that Musica Angelica is here. I think that this is a part of the city that we haven't really explored, or part of the music that we haven't explored. So I thank you very much for being here. It was nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. We've had good programs. I hope you listen to us and watch us again.